So with so many options then, Arsenin, and so many marketing and sales approaches, in many organizations having never been through an ERP selection previously, how can organizations focus on looking at the true differentiators with ERP vendors? So in other words, I've mentioned this before in previous podcasts, and it's not really meant to be negative, but I tell people and our clients all the time that during the sales pitch, you can often swap logos on the same sales slide deck and leave the rest, and they all seem to be saying the same thing. So what do you say? What are some of the things to consider when trying to understand the true differentiators between ERP options during the selection process? And I think as our listeners will learn today, Infor certainly has some competitive differentiators, but what's your thoughts on that? How can you help our organizations just kind of understand what to look for in terms of true differentiators and, separate the wheat from the chaff when going through the ERP selection process?
Yeah, so first of all, if that organization that is trying to convince you of an ERP that they need based on what they want to have as an organization, if the ERP that you're selecting is not focused on your industry, it also means that this organization will not be able to understand the best business practice, give you that advice, because during an implementation, you will need advice on how to optimize the configuration of the ERP for your business. So if that organization is not focused on your industry, it's going to be hard to implement because you're missing so many components, especially if you've not done those selection process before. So it's very good to get somebody to help you out. That's always good. But you have to understand immediately if this ERP vendor understands your business and your market and your industry. If they don't, it's going to be very difficult to find them, because then you just get a large messaging exchange about all the capabilities that are in the application and not ranked by importance and necessity for your business as an industry. So I would say, I really understand the question, because how can you see, sometimes you don't see the forest because all the trees are in the way. Yeah, but you have to look at what are they focusing on. Yeah. And I'll tell you also why this is important. And this is something that people forget because they're not looking too long forward. If an ERP vendor is not focused on your industry, also the roadmap and the capabilities they're going to build in the future for your industry is going to be less important to them than if they are focused on your industry. Yeah. And that's something that safeguards you going forward, especially in a cloud deployment where you're getting capabilities improvements over time. And if all those capability improvements over time are not for your industry, the solution just gets more and more complex and deviates from the necessities of your business.
Yeah, great insight. Thanks, Arsenin. And I think part of the takeaway for our listeners is during the selection process, I think what you're saying, Arsenin, is not just important that the sales team, let's say, displays the knowledge of the features and functionality of their product, but they display their knowledge and understanding of your business, of your industry. And I think that's a key point.
Yeah. And then just to add one thing to this, because there's actually that you mentioned here, the sales pitch and the logos on the slide, always look at the application itself. The more demonstration you get, the better feel you get how this application could be your future solution. Don't buy that from slideware.